Alright, we're going to be setting up a web server on a fresh Debian install. You are going to need a static IP address and a valid domain name that you are going to use for this setup. So the first step we are going to be doing is using a terminal to SSH into our machine. With any fresh install, it's always good to do like an update and then a full upgrade just to make sure you have everything up to date with like whatever security patches they have out there and any other fixes. That'll get your server right off to a good start right away. This can take a little bit depending on how powerful your machine is. Alright, once we have that all fully upgraded, we are going to add a non-root user. You can name this whatever you want. I just name mine Dev. If you want, you can fill in this information, but I just keep whacking enter because I'm just not that concerned with it. There's not going to be multi-users, so it shouldn't matter too much. We are going to want to add this user to the sudo group. So first we got to check and make sure our system has sudo. A lot of times a base Debian install doesn't. This is through DigitalOcean in my case, so it's already installed on the image that they gave me, and this is a Debian version 12 image, but this should work with like many other Debian versions. So once that's installed or you verified that sudo is already installed, then you can just type in this whole user mod. You're going to add your newly created user to the sudoers group. From there, you can test it out. I just like to install ScreenFetch using the sudo apt install, and I just like having ScreenFetch on my system. It's like one of my favorite little packages to run. It gives you a cool little artwork and tells you about your machine. Alright, now we're going to be switching to our client machine that we're actually like doing the SSHing from. So this will be the machine you're currently on and not your web server. Here we're going to be creating an SSH key. That way we can use this without having password logins. This will make everything a lot more secure. You can name yours whatever you want. If you aren't going to like put a bunch of different keys on here, you could get away with just using the defaults, but I just name mine to sort of reflect like what the key is used for. Then we are just going to copy it to our new machine using that user that we just created. Type in your passwords and it should copy that over. We can verify that on the actual web server machine by taking a look at the like authenticated keys. Now that we have a valid key, we do need to edit the SSH config, and this is where we're going to disable root login and password login and set it to only allow key usage. This will be a lot more secure. People won't be able to slowly brute force your machine, and we'll do some other things as well to try and prevent brute forcing, and this overall, like I said, will make it more secure. When I tried this before recording, something was overriding the password authentication, and when you're using a server from DigitalOcean, they have like a little extra file on there because again, this is more of a custom image that they create, and I found that there's this extra file here where you have to change it to no as well before reloading, and this will allow everything to take effect. But at first I was pretty confused. So if you're using a DigitalOcean image, you might have to do the same thing, otherwise it might just work for you. From there, you can restart the SSH service, and then I always like to check the status and just make sure that things actually came up properly, because sometimes you can just start it, but it doesn't actually start in the background because you have some error, and here's a great place where you can find that out and verify it. Now, just to make sure everything is working properly with the configs that we have set, we can go back to our client machine and test out logging in via SSH with the actual key. So you can target the key that you named, and it should allow you to log in once you use your passwords that you've set. And then to further test this, you can exit out of that and then just try a natural, like typical password SSH, and that should give you like a permission denied, and that's how you know you have things configured properly. Next up, we are going to set up a simple firewall. This UFW firewall is really easy to use. I like this one because you can use like IP tables and everything, but some of that gets a little more complex. Again, this is a very simple setup for, I guess, newbies or just people who want to get into trying to set up a web server. So this is a lot easier to use, and I believe this one does just edit IP tables in the background, but again, you'll see how easy this is. The three main things we just want to allow is our open SSH. That's going to allow us to continue to use SSH to edit things on this machine and configure things. And then we're going to open up the ports for HTTP and HTTPS, and that's crucial for our web server that we will be running. Once you've got all your rules typed in, you can enable it. And then again, I love to check the status, and we can see here all the rules that have been applied, and that is indeed running. Now it's time for the actual web server. So we're going to use Nginx. You could use Apache. It shouldn't differ too much as we would proceed here, but to make it easier to follow along, I would just go with Nginx. From there, you're going to want to enable it, and that's so it like boots up every time you restart your system, because you don't want like a restart to cause your web server to go down and not come back up. Then we're going to start it, check the status, just like we typically do. From here, we're going to set up our basic web page, and this is where you're going to plug in your domain name that you've picked out or you purchased. In my case, it's just dev-01-lab.com. I have a few of these, and I use them for little projects like this. Once you've created the folder structure, then we're going to create that actual index.html, and that's where we're going to put our HTML for our website. Here's where you would also put other files if you have a more complex website. In my case, I'm just doing a very simple web page. I don't need anything complex. I just want to make sure everything works when I'm done configuring everything. Next up, we need a config file for Nginx so it knows how to like route to our proper website. So here we're just placing the actual port it's going to listen on, what the actual URLs are that are going to be hitting this, and then where we're going to route this to, like which files. It's a pretty simple setup. These can get pretty complex, but again, we are just going for simplicity's sake, just making a nice, simple, secure server. Now that we have the files actually created, we do need to do a symlink, and that is of the sites available to our sites enabled. So basically, you could have a ton of available sites configured here, and then you can enable them by using these symlinks. So you could run multiple domains off of this single server if you really wanted to. At this point, we can just do a quick test on our config and make sure we don't have any errors. It's really easy to add a semicolon or set something up incorrectly, so this is just a quick test. Next, we just reload Nginx. You can check the status again, and then we can verify in a browser hitting the actual IP address that things should work. At this point, you should be able to also use your domain, but it's only going to work with HTTP without having that big warning because we haven't set up the SSL certs, and we're going to be doing that next. We are going to be installing this cert bot, and this is how you would get a free SSL certificate. It's actually really awesome, and it auto renews. Then we just run this certbot command with our URL to our domain that we are using, and this should work. You shouldn't see any issues, and this will generate an SSL certificate and set up the configuration, and it should be set to auto renew. And we can also run a test command to validate that the auto renew will work when it tries by doing like a dry run. At this point, you could load it up in a browser and just try using the actual domain name with HTTPS, and you should be able to see your website. Next up, we are going to be installing fail to ban. This is just a brute force preventer. Basically, if people keep trying to connect and failing, eventually they'll get banned for whatever you decide. There's certain durations. There's a config file, and I will show you how to set that up. You will see that once I enabled it, started it, and checked the status, there was an issue where it did fail. And so if you're using Debian, you might find this error. I did some quick Googling once I logged out what like the actual error was and found that I just need an extra setting in the actual config. So this jail.local file is the file where you're going to set up your configuration, and this is where you can do the different like lengths of time, how many retries they get, and this is where that extra little bit needs to be added so you don't get that crashing issue. Once I had the proper config, I just did a restart, checked the status again, and we solved the issue. A few more little nice to have security features is just disabling FTP or Telnet. In my case, this image didn't have it running already, but you never know like what your distribution might have pre-set up and pre-running. If you're not using it, there's no reason to have that exposed because people and attackers will find a way to use it against you. And then for good measure, you can list all the open ports. I think I have like a mail server on here and then some other like TCP type thing. If I really want to, I can disable them, but I'm going to leave them for now. But if you're really worried about any like attack vector being available, disable any ports that you don't need. Lastly, we are going to set up unintended upgrades, and this is going to make sure like any critical security stuff gets patched. This is great because you don't have to like be monitoring this 24/7. This should handle a lot of those crucial updates that your server might need to stay secure. So this is a really important step, and this is pretty much the last step. Well, if you followed everything up to this point, you should have a working web server. If you don't, hit me up in the comments. I'll see if I can help you out. There are minor variations with different distros or hosting services, so hopefully it wasn't too troublesome, and hopefully this video was nice and concise. If you got any other suggestions or things you want to see set up, let me know, and I'll give it a shot. See you next time.